You're Latina, so your chances are like 3% of actually doing it. Do you have kids?
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, I would. He's like laughing, and he's like, honestly, I would just try something more realistic, like nursing.
I just felt like the Lord is like, I got you. Remember what I did? Remember the things that I put together to bring you here? And I just looked at it, and all of a sudden, boom, peace. We got that portion the month that our closing costs were due.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the types of things where you're just like, that's God. All right, here we go. Another episode of Life Upside Down. We are getting deeper into our story. We're in the last episode, we were just on our way to see this house that kind of came up out of nowhere. And we're really excited. And now with that in mind, as we've been getting deeper into our story, I just want to lead with a question just for people to get to know us a little bit more. And so my question to you, Karina, and I'll answer the same question. Can you name a pet peeve or two that I do
Just
that
one or
drives
two?
you nuts? I know you
Yes.
probably have like 5 or 6.
Okay, number one, I think would have to be you and your efficiency.
Efficiency.
I think that
I'm
you,
great at efficient.
no, you
I'm
and
very
efficiency. No, you're not. I think you want to be, and you
Yes.
strive for every time, but it always backfires.
I think we actually had that happen on the way here.
Yep, and we were running all behind, but like you always have this mentality, like we got to just do the quickest, most efficient thing.
Yes.
But it's not always.
I want to be on time. That's part of it.
Or like the most, like you're not prepared, or like I don't know. I just feel like every time you strive to go and be efficient, it always backfires, and you end up being later and then not prepared.
Okay, here's the deal. Like even if I like forgot my pants, as long as I'm on time, that is the most important thing. So.
And then the other one is that you're a slow driver. Like you go under the speed limit. That's crazy. I'm talking about just your the regular speed limit. I'm not talking about like the interstate or just your typical
That's a
speed
good
limit.
thing, right?
Well, no. Here's the thing. Then you're reckless.
Oh, yeah.
Like you've almost ran over a pedestrian before.
Okay, it probably wasn't that close, babe.
No, it was pretty close, right? It happened a couple times. So you're like slow and reckless, which makes no sense.
Slow and reckless. That actually sounds like a Christian movie thriller or something like that.
So those are my 2 pet peeves.
Okay, I've got plenty for you. Don't worry.
All right, what are your
How
top
many
2?
do you want?
Top 2.
I'll give you top 2. The first one is you seem to make us late all the time. Although today maybe... Well, no, we were on our way and you forgot your makeup bag.
But we were just like a block away.
That was an extra like 6 minutes. 3 minutes there, 3 minutes back. Anyway, so the fact that you always make us late, that's a little, that gets under my skin a little bit. And then something that goes along with that, we can be running late and then you still have to get your coffee. It's so funny how
it's pre-made and everything. I just got to pick it up.
You say, can we get my coffee? It's not even yours yet. You got to pay for it first. But anyway, so I guess mine is, I just want to be on time. That's it. That's part of why I'm trying to be
But here's the thing.
here.
We have 4 kids.
Yeah.
And you're like considered as one. So I have 5 kids to deal with.
Considered one.
So yeah. I get everyone ready to go. And I'm always the last one. It's mostly true.
Okay.
Sometimes if we're trying to get somewhere on time, that's where you get up and do all the effort to get up early and help. But most of the time, I'm getting everyone ready.
Okay.
And then when it's time for
then you
me,
gotta pick out my
I'm
clothes.
running out of the house, probably half dressed, hair half done.
Makeup bag not in hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and we're still late, but I'm always making sure everybody's taken care of.
Yeah. Anyway, it's fun. The dynamics of being married and 13 years we have with each other. So plenty to complain about, plenty to be grateful for as well. So we left off the last episode. We're on our way to this rental house. We had been living in this apartment, and I remember I took that right, and it was the vision from a year prior that I had of taking this right. And it was just like, it was really crazy the way that it all played out. And for me, it was just confirmation that God was in this, and it turned out to be exactly the house that we needed for our family.
Yeah, I feel like there was a few like signs that were such a God thing because like it was in our budget. which wasn't very high, being like a one house income. And then the space, like it had 6 rooms, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And
not that it was like a huge house, but it was definitely like,
I mean, it had the rooms for all the kids to have their own room, and
Yeah.
we even had like our own podcast room in there.
Extra
so
office,
yeah. It just the space, the cost of it, and then something I've always wanted was like a yard for our kids.
Yeah.
So just living in an apartment complex, they were really small, so I guess it wasn't like a huge
They had the
deal.
balcony was kind of big enough, but
like I just remember we went to go look at it. They just we were checking out the backyard, and the kids were already like playing with the dirt. I mean, they were already testing out. Yeah, they were just playing with it and building things and running. And I just remember that was such a like impactful thing for me, because like that's what I wanted.
They get to be kids, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, I feel like oftentimes we can overlook the simple things. Like there is so much for us to be grateful for in everyday life, like that we overlook, especially like in our country. You know, even if you're on the lower end, it's like in the whole world, you're on the higher end, because we have all the necessities and more. And oftentimes, you know, I feel like we can get stuck in like, oh, you know, I'm not in a house, or I'm not in this. And I remember when we moved from that apartment and we got into that house, it was like a huge miracle for us. Like, you know, like you said, all of the circumstances that just lined up at just the right time. But even the simple things like that, like our kids had a yard. It wasn't even a big yard, but they had such a good time. And that was really powerful for us, you know, to see God move like that.
Yeah. So while we were renting, I remember we were like tackling our debt, which was a huge thing. We were on this like financial piece with like Dave Ramsey.
What a journey that is, for sure.
So we we tackled, gosh, I want to say like $46,000 of debt.
Yeah.
I think
that it was like from when we had met.
So it was like our cars were paid off, our credit cards were paid off, my student loan was paid off. I think we got down to like 3,000 left.
Yeah.
And then we ended up having Uriah, which like added more. But anyways, like we were doing so good. But the thing with that whole thing is like, so they suggest that you save like $1,000 for emergency fund, and then all extra money just goes to debt, like tackling. And it worked. Clearly, we paid off a lot.
I just one of the things I remember about that, because when it comes to like finances and being married, and you have to like figure this stuff out together, like me and you, I feel like we came in with a very different view of money. And so I remember like when we decided, hey, we're going to like buckle down and get a budget put together, like those budget meetings. It's like when we started to figure it out, it was fun. But in the beginning, oh, it was so hard. Remember you had to like cut out your coffee stuff.
My coffee, that was really hard. And coffee's more expensive now, but back then I think it was like almost $5 for a large. Yeah. And I remember trying to justify like $5, so it's not a big deal, but I was getting it every day.
And then you added up.
Or every other day, depending. Yeah. But like then I added it, and it was like a really nice car payment.
Oh.
And when I saw how much I was paying for it a month, I was able to like, nope, I'm just making my home coffee.
You're paying Scooters a car payment. That's pretty well.
Now I would never do that now, because it's like $7, almost $8. But
yeah.
But like still, like once I saw that number, I'm like, what? Because it just seems so insignificant. Yeah. Like what's $4 gonna do? Anyway, so we sacrificed a lot. I mean, and there was times like birthday parties. I like to kind of go a little big.
That's one of our struggles when we first got. I did not understand. My birthday party was cake and ice cream.
A small cake and one candle.
Yeah, not too much. But
no, I want piñata, candy.
Yeah.
A whole theme. I'm like, we're gonna make it special.
Although I did appreciate. I remember the first birthday party we had at that house. It was really cool just to see everybody there. And you slowly kind of wore me down, and then I was like, okay, like I can see how this could create a great, memory for our kids. But at first, I'm like, cake and ice cream.
You were so stressed out.
I know.
Like as we're preparing for the parties, and then you would like.
Although you were stressed too.
I was too, but then at the end, when everyone's having fun, and then you can relax and have fun, and then the kids are like, "Thanks, Mom and Dad." You're like, "Ooh, that was worth it."
Remember that forever, hopefully.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, so we sacrificed a lot for that frame, but now it's like we came to a point where like I remember the landlord called us and was like,
Yeah.
he had came across some like life changes and he had to basically sell the house soon, like
Yes.
ASAP, like super fast.
Yep.
And so he basically said, I'm willing to give it to you guys first if you want to buy it. So we wouldn't have to like compete with anybody, which is a big deal. And so now like we want to buy it, you know, because it's like we're here. He was giving us a great deal.
Yep.
So even if it's not like our dream home, like, oh my gosh, this is like a dream price.
Yes,
so
for
like,
sure.
even if it's like we live in it for a couple years, like whatever, like we could do that. But we were like tackling debt, which we technically look good now, but we had put all our money, all extra money towards debt. We only had like our maybe 1,500 emergency fund.
Yeah.
And so, but you have to have like a down payment, closing costs and all that. So now we're like in a pickle.
Yeah. And I remember, I think we had moved a few times since we had been married at this point. And I just remember the thought of like, because he basically said, you either need to buy the house or move out. And I'm just like, not again. Like we had been there maybe a year and a half or so or something like that.
Almost
and then
2 years.
It was just like a quick, like, hey, we got to sell this.
Like months to buy it.
Like we had some months. And so I'm just like, I really don't want to move again. And so I remember we actually talked to 2 lenders. And we tried to get approved, and they said we couldn't get approved for whatever reason. Some of that had to do with like we didn't necessarily know where the funds were coming from for closing costs and other stuff like that.
One was like not having debt to show.
That too, yeah.
Having debt.
We started paying debt. So there was a few different reasons. And so I remember like it felt kind of like a God thing that we even tried a third. But we did. And it was just someone you came across, you knew them, and we tried and we got approved.
I mean, she made it sound like, I feel like she approved us really fast. So then it made me feel like maybe those people just weren't like the company to work with. But anyways,
So we end up getting approved, but there was the other thing was still like where we're going to get our closing costs. And this was the really big like miracle moment that I feel like the Lord just showed up, because it had to do with your family. If you want to kind of tell the story of
I was going to say,
house.
okay, so now we're feeling defeated again. Like this is the thing with like, when you're walking in faith, it's like you feel like, oh my gosh, God's moving. You're so excited. You see him moving. And then sometimes things start to like, okay, God, where are you?
Yeah.
Like, why don't things look good anymore? Because like we just showed up to this house that God gave you a vision of. We're living in it. We mark all the boxes. Like we're like, oh yeah, this is good. But now it's going to get like taken away from us just like that. And so it just doesn't make sense. And so I felt like we're feeling defeated and once again feeling those feelings of like, oh no, what's going to happen? God, what are you doing? But at the same time, I'm feeling like I need to really cling on to God and like trust what he said, like trust that he brought us here for a reason, not just to like get our hopes up and then just kidding. You know, it's like you really have to cling on to what he said and spoke beforehand.
Which is also important for us to seek him and know what he says.
Yeah.
Right?
And
or what he's saying.
And it's so easy to like lean on your own understanding because like part of that, like while we were going through it, we're like, well, how are we going to come up with down payment? Like we could have, but we had to buy this house in like a month
we
or
didn't
two
have any time
tops.
to save.
No, we don't have enough time. So it has to be a
doing.
legitimate like miracle with the time we have and the amount we need. And so anyway, so it's like, it's one of those things where you're like, our own understanding is like, we want to get scared, stressed out, and like, God, what are you doing? And then we wanted to start worrying. And I wanted to start taking matters into my own hands and go get 4 jobs. But like, once again, like I think you were the first one who said, I have peace. Because you were like praying and you were like, I have peace. It's going to be okay. But I'm still like, okay, I trust you. But I'm still like.
Part of that was he just kept bringing back that vision.
Yeah.
When I turned right and like how I had that a year before we were able to rent it, like.
So he keeps reminding you.
It just kept coming to me. And I just had this feeling like he's telling me this is our home. But again, like oftentimes when we're walking by faith, day by day, you don't see how it's going to play out. It doesn't make sense. Like so often God's way, his path. I mean, the whole point of life upside down, Jesus came with an upside down kingdom that makes no sense. Love my enemies. Like that doesn't make sense. And so oftentimes when you're walking by faith, you're looking at everything and it's like, this can't work. So anyway.
And I feel like when I tend to lean on my own understanding and forget what God's spoken over me, the thing that he always like speaks to me or reminds me with is he'll be like, you have little faith. And it just like, oh, okay. Like kind of convicts me like, oh shoot. Like you're right. I'm leaning on my own thoughts, my own. But anyway, so you had peace. That was enough for me. I kind of, honestly, I felt it too, but there's still that human part of us like, well, when, how? And I remember, so we talked about my mom passing away in episode 2. And so something about my mom is, so she was a single mom, but she worked a lot, like really hard. Her goal was to like pay off the house. And her thing was to pay off the house. So if anything happened to her, it's crazy. I feel like she always had this feeling.
Premonition or something.
She always was like, if anything happens to me, like, you know, what would you guys do? Anyways, so she was paying off this house and she paid it off because she wanted us to be taken care of and have a place and stuff. And so when she passed away, I think the house, she had a will too, but the house was under my brother's name as what is the name?
Oh, the beneficiary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he passed away too. So then what they did is they grabbed the total value of the house and they split it between each sister. Yeah. So all kids. And so so what we had decided before as sisters was that so my oldest sister was the one who wanted to keep it. Like she wanted it. None of us really wanted it. It was a nice house, but just with like all the years of like my mom being a single mom and my dad being out of the picture, like it went from like being the nicest house in the block to like not the nicest because like things were breaking. My mom was working, couldn't afford it. So it was just slowly like falling apart. But it was a big house. And so it had a lot of potential. And so my sister was the one who was the closest to my mom. Like she was, you know, with her the longest. And she just wanted to cling on to this house and keep it. And so all of us we were like, yeah, we don't have the time. And so we made a deal that like we'll give it to her very cheap. I think we gave it to her for like $50,000, which was worth more. But we wanted it to make it possible for her because she already had her house. Yeah. But she wanted to like have it, like keep it too. So anyway, so we gave it to her for $50,000 just so she can like give us our portion and then she could fix it up because she has to like remodel it. It needed a lot of work. Yeah. So also we didn't feel like requesting what the value of it and then her still have to put that much money in it. Yeah. So anyway, so my sister at this time, like the same time that we were going through all this, so she found a house that she really loved. And so she was going to sell her house that she lived in. Mm-hmm. And she was going to sell this house and basically use that money to pay us off, like each sister, our portion. So I talked to her on the phone and she was basically saying like, yeah, like I'm ready to pay you off your portion. And this was during the same time. Well, I was going to say, like, the crazy part about this is, like, your mom had been gone for 15 years, and the house was just sitting there. Like, I mean, you know, it was being used by the family, but there was no motion. No one really was taking initiative. Nobody really wanted to claim it, yeah. And so it, like, literally, I feel like it was when we were just about, it was around that time where we applied for the third time for a mortgage, that the whispers of like, hey, I think we're getting close came into play. So now all of a sudden, that was where the hope of like, you know, we can say, oh, we might be getting this inheritance, you know what I mean, for closing costs. And it's just like literally, the other thing is they had to sell their house. So there was another factor that played into us being able to get the portion. And I'm telling you, it all lined up to the month. Like we got that portion the month that our closing costs were due. Mm-hmm. And those are the types of things where you're just like, that's God. Like, you know, some people talk about coincidence and, you know, like, and it's just like, again, we've seen this over and over. We serve a living God. We've seen him in our life. These are real stories. These are
true things that happened, and they've happened over and over. And I feel like the more they happen, the more like the next one that comes, it bolsters your faith. And you're like, I don't know, but I've seen this before. And that's what I've found. I'm 13 years saved. And I just like, I feel like each time there's questions and wondering, how is this going to happen? Like my faith is bolstered from the last time. And that's, the parting of the Red Sea. I can't remember if it's that or the Jordan River. One of those, God commanded them to take a rock. I think it was the Jordan River. I don't know if he did that with the Red Sea, but take a rock out in remembrance, to remember these things. Because next time our backs are against the wall and we don't know what's going to happen, we can remember. And on that note, I want to say this. So we finally knew that we were going to get the inheritance, but when it comes to buying a house, there's always moments where it can fall through. There's like inspections and other things. And so we're slowly each moment by moment, we'll do this paperwork. And then we're just like, okay, Lord, if you want this to be, let it happen. But there were moments where it felt like it was going to fall through. And I remember this one day where there was something that came up and it really felt like, I don't know if this is going to work out. Hey, I hope that you are enjoying this episode. I just wanted to come in real quick and let you know that we are a nonprofit podcast that is made possible largely by donations. If you have been encouraged by anything you've heard here on Life Upside Down and you feel led to give, you can click the QR code and head over to our giving page. We truly want to say thank you so much. Every gift makes it possible for us to continue to tell more people about our living God. And I remember going upstairs, you were downstairs in the laundry room. I walk upstairs and I'm just struggling. And I'm like, gosh, what are we going to do? What if this falls through? I'm doubting. And I look out my back window and I saw that gas station. Well, I thought it was a gas station. It was actually a car wash. But from my vision, again, I'm going back to that vision that I had when I took that right. And I look down there and I see that. And I'm reminded, I just felt like the Lord is like, I got you. Remember what I did? Remember the things that I put together to bring you here? And I just looked at it and all of a sudden, boom, peace. Just like I got in the shower when I saw that vision originally. I got this peace in the moment. Circumstances didn't change, nothing changed, but the peace of God overtook me. And I remember going downstairs and I was like, Karina, we're good. And I'm not kidding you. It was maybe 15 minutes later, we got a text. I think it was from I don't know if it was from the landlord or someone else, the text, and whatever that issue was, it was resolved. And it was no longer an issue in that moment. And I just remember moment by moment, that's how we walked through that home buying process. And ultimately we bought the house and it became our home. And it was just like, it was so cool to just see God provide like that, like each step of the way.
I think like people hearing this kind of stuff, like, I don't know, some people might see it as like luck. Well, you guys are just lucky.
Yeah.
Some people might be like, well, that's like 1 in a million chances. But it's like, I've noticed like every time that hard things are happening and we're put to a test to like really walk by faith, like to really lean on what we stand for. I feel a lot of Christians like, they go to church and they read the Bible and they know verses, but like when it comes to like hardships, that's when they don't really trust God. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like I feel like we've like trust and leaned on him even though we're tempted not to, because our flesh is like, whoa, like we want to step back and like we want to make sense of things, logic and all this stuff. But ultimately our faith like speaks louder. And so because we do that, like God moves like this and God does things like this because of him. And like I feel like so many times God is moving this much with everyone, and he has like all this stuff to offer to every single one of us. The thing is, like, how many of us are listening? How many of us are trusting him? How many of us are like giving that blessing away because we just want to lean on our own, understand we want to take control of our own lives? You know what I mean? And then essentially it makes me think of like when we want to do things our way, our own understanding, and act on our own, it's like we're initially playing God almost. Like, no, God, I'll just be my own God and be in charge of my own life. You know what I mean? Yep. And so when you do that, it's like, okay, like, yeah, fine. And then we do life on our own and it's like things go downhill and things don't go right. And then we like get upset and like, oh, why is this happening, God? And it's like, well, like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Or things go well and you're comfortable your whole life. And I've seen it a lot where people, they get comfortable and down the road, they're miserable. Like, one thing that makes me think about is the fact that we just have everything we need. We live in a culture where, for the most part, even if you're not rich and wealthy, you can have everything you want. You can even have extra amenities, and you can have, you can get, like, even I think of how food at one time, like, you had to be rich to have like sweets and stuff. Well, you don't need to. Like, you can be so comfortable in so many different ways in our culture. And oftentimes that's where I think a lot of people in our culture, they're chasing that comfort and they think that that's what's going to bring them fulfillment. But then when you're just comfortable, I feel like life becomes bland and boring. And oftentimes we don't have to rely on God. Like you're saying, we live in a country where you can build your own way. You can make your own path. You can choose your own way. But obviously we believe that ultimately we were created to be with God. That is the purpose of life. And when you take God out of the equation, you will chase for eternity until you die. You'll chase something. You'll get the next job. You'll get the next house, the bigger car, the whatever it is. You won't find rest. And I feel like that kind of is what reminds me. It's like when our backs are against the wall and we see God move, that's what's so exciting. Even being here on set at Life Upside Down, seeing all of the ways that God has moved, like even here on set, Jonah and the Whale, the Red Sea, like can you imagine being there for the Red Sea and seeing God move like that? That is living. You know what I mean? And we've experienced it in maybe not a Red Sea parting, but in the same kind of, idea, things happening out of nowhere that you can't make sense of it. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that was such a powerful moment for us in our walk. Now, around this season, kind of mixed into this season, was that cuss word. You remember that? COVID.
Such a bad word.
Do you remember when it was called coronavirus, like in the beginning?
Corona,
I'm pretty sure Corona, the beer, probably like sued somebody to
Someone
make sure
Someone tried calling me Corona.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I said Karina like Corona. I'm like, absolutely not.
Not Corona.
I'm not even going to accept that.
They just had Corona on
I'll
the
accept
mind.
Katrina,
Oh my gosh.
Catalina, but not Corona.
Everyone calls you Katrina, and I don't get it. It's like Karina.
It's like a letter off. Apparently, Karina's
so
just way harder to say.
It is harder to say. But anyway, so COVID-19 was kind of a big moment for us in this. And we feel like we had a couple lessons that the Lord taught us in that. And I remember when it first started, it was so weird. And you were actually working in mouths at the time, which is like the worst place to be working at that time.
Yeah.
So kind of get into that.
Well, real quick, I feel like we just, we bought our house. Everything went great. We had a amazing breakthrough. God is good. And then this huge worldwide pandemic kind of happens. We had to get thrown back in there some way or another.
Can't get too comfortable.
Yeah. So I worked with an oral surgeon. So we worked in mouths. And this was when things were fresh. Like, we don't know who can die from it. We don't know how serious it is. And then, and having kids, I think that's like the only thing that made me, when it comes to like death or any, like, I just think of like my kids, you know what I mean? I feel like I don't care, if it's me. I remember dental places were starting to close until there was further details or like until they know what's going on, except the oral surgeons were like the emergency kind of thing.
Yeah,
so like people are going to be in pain, have toothaches, emergency stuff like that. So like we had to be open. And so it was just a really dark time. I mean, there was such a vibe just in the world in general. I feel like I could feel this like spirit of like death and darkness over us. And then when people were coming in, they were just like, like the way they just acted was like, it was like something you'd see in a movie. Like they're just fearful and like paranoid.
You told me the guy who he had 99 on his temperature reading.
99 or 98, and because his norm was normally like 97, he was having like a miniature panic attack, and then we had to like, I think we rescheduled, but that was common though. It wasn't just him. It was like everyone. And then we had to like, and this was before we knew kids wouldn't get it. Like this is when it was really fresh. And I just
that was
remember
the scary part.
we had to do like extra stuff, like, extra gowns now and like
give us the full rundown of what you had to put on every time.
Well, I think we had to wear like an N95, and then we had like a face shield and like some kind of like hairnet bonnet thing so stuff doesn't get on your hair, and like a surgical gown and
hazmat suit.
Yeah, it was. No, but I just remember like we were all dressed like this, and I just remember like going into every surgery felt very weird. Like I remember almost like, because like I said, we don't know if it could kill you. We don't know.
Yeah.
So you're kind of going in there with like wondering like, does this person have it? Like, because we're about to go in, water, blood splashes all over. So like, you know what I mean? So you're just like wondering like, am I going to get it after this? Am I going to go home and take it to my family? It was just like walking on eggshells. It just seemed very weird. And, but it was such a time of like fear. And then I remember like the Lord was just reminding me of like, Thanksgiving is kind of like, is what helps fear, overcome fear. And so, I would just try to like speak life into patients, and like they'd come in scared, and I'd be like, reminding them like, okay, like let's think of the positive things. You're not going to be in pain, because these are once again people that absolutely have to come. You know what I mean? Yep. So it's like you're going to be out of pain. You're going to be able to sleep tonight. It's going to be okay. And then and they were just like, oh, okay, and they would just calm down, and they would like just relax. You know what I mean?
On that point, I like that I've heard you talk about this, and you say how you couldn't necessarily like, just preach Jesus, right? It's like you're in a professional work environment, but you talked about how that's kind of using biblical, a biblical worldview to share your faith with someone, if you want to explain that.
Well, yeah, everyone's like, I feel like everyone hates a dentist. It's a phobia. Yeah. I feel like everybody, like just being in the chair, I mean, there'd be people in tears.
The grind. Or
like, especially if you're going to get something pulled out, like, okay, I get it. But so I just feel like I would just help them overcome it. You know what I mean? I'd be like, well, like, let's think about the positive things. And I would and that's biblical, and they would be like, oh, wow, thank you. And they would feel so much better, and they'd leave all like, oh, wow, that wasn't bad. And it's like, but yeah, that's so kind of what I would do.
And I remember a night where I think I was watching a video or something, and I was laying with one of our kids. And this was like the first night that it was like, what is this? And it almost felt like this could be like the Black Plague or something that wipes out half the world. We didn't know. And I watched this video, and they're just like, yeah, we're not sure what's going on. And I remember walking over to the bedroom, and I was just like, Karina, I don't know what this is. But I had this like anxiety that like gripped me. And I'm not really like that.
I was surprised. You're someone who'd be like, oh, it'll be fine. Nah, it's not that big of a deal. Like you're that kind of person.
Yeah.
So you were getting freaked out.
Yeah. And then I remember like, then we were having discussions about you because it was like, you still had to go to work. I think you were talking about how people were trying to figure out, do I want to go to work? Should I not? Like, and so we were trying to figure out, do we want you to go to work? You know what I mean? Because you're working in mouths, and like, we don't know what this is. And so I remember that night, like I was just filled with anxiety when I came over there. And then you quickly realized, like you identified it. You remember that?
Well, you started to pace around.
Yeah, I was pacing.
Like you
our
came
bedroom.
in just to talk about what you watched, and then you're pacing, and then you started to struggle to breathe. Like I could see you were like about to have like a anxiety attack, which you don't have. And I was like, you were like, hands on your head, like, Karina, what is this? And I just remember like, whoa, like I don't know, something in me kind of got like upset, because I could see some like it's just a spiritual, right? It's a spiritual thing going on in the world. Like this isn't just a virus. It's deeper than a virus. And my thing is like, I'm going to this anxiety and fearful thing at work, and like I'm supposed to come home, and like this is where we're supposed to be like peace and like the Holy Spirit, you know what I mean? And it's like I'm seeing it like in our home. I'm like, this thing is in our home, attacking us too. Like I was seeing how you were you know,
Yeah.
and I started getting like up, like this anger, not towards you. It's like this
Yeah.
thing. And I'm like, hold up. Like, I'm like, no way. I'm like, we are going to open our Bibles right now. Like, you're being attacked spiritually. This is a demonic thing. There's something going on in our house, in this world. And so we opened our Bibles, and I think it was Exodus.
Yeah. Exodus 12.
The 12, the Passover. So we just, and I don't remember if you specifically picked that or if we just opened our Bible.
I'm not sure.
So anyways, we ended up on this. So we're reading this story, and it was talking about like how God's people were told to like mark their doors, you know what I mean, for this spirit that was going to come through, and whoever has this mark on their doors would be safe from the spirit. And so when we were reading that, I just had this feeling of like, Ryan, I don't think this is any different. You know what I mean? Because you're also seeing on the news. I know the news overhypes things, but the reality is like a lot of people did die. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it was definitely.
And I understand some had a lot of other health issues and it just didn't help. But people did die, and it's no coincidence that it happened during COVID and with COVID. Like, there was a very deep, dark spiritual connection to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go, Ryan, I don't think this is any different than what these people went through. And I just felt the Lord like telling us to pray over our door and our home and ask for his blood to protect it and cover it. And then in that same night we were reading, he made a promise, like, this plague is not going to touch you, like, as in hurt you, kill you, right? Because what it did when it went to homes, it killed their first son. So it's like, it's not going to kill you. And I feel like as long as I knew we were going to be safe like that, like I had this like peace. Okay, God said we're safe. Like, I'm good, you know? And now I felt more comfortable to go to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was going because I had to, but there was also this conversation at work, like a meeting, like, guys, this is pretty serious. Like, you know, and people are like crying and like, I don't know what's going to happen with us, with the world. We don't know. Everybody has kids. It was getting weird. And so at that point I was also like, oh geez, like I was coming home talking to you, like, should I go to work less? Should I, but we need the money. Like, but after this thing we did with God where we prayed and he made us, like, assured us, you guys are not going to die. Then I felt more comfortable.
I was going to say, like, I do remember a couple days where I literally couldn't sleep. This was the first time that I can remember where, like, I would lay in bed and I had this pit in my stomach and I was super paranoid, like, just about what is this? And then even I start thinking about just other like government stuff, and it's just like, it was a really weird place. But I remember that actually drove me to prayer. Like, I think there was 2 nights in a row where I was up at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I was just reading my Bible and I still had the pit in my stomach, but it drove me to the feet of Jesus. And again, like, as we've been talking, like, when we get to the end of ourselves, whatever that may be, however that might look, that is where we most experience God, when we are left to the end of ourselves. And it's like in that moment, in a moment where I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is going to kill me and take my life and take my family or change the world forever. And so I had nowhere else to go. I was out of control, and I just went to the feet of Jesus. And then I think after a couple of days, you know, that subsided. And then at some point, I think we found out that it was no longer affecting kids.
I think
and
that was
that's
our
where
biggest
it just
concern,
changed.
yeah.
It really changed that it wasn't affecting kids. And I think that really changed it for us. I think it took us a year to get it. We ended up getting it at some point, and it was nasty. But that's maybe later on in our story. So that was COVID. Just a totally crazy situation.
Okay, yeah, so aside from like COVID, it was a crazy time. Everything was really uncertain, like throughout the world, our lives, everything. We're just kind of going day by day and see what's going to happen. And I think I had mentioned in one of the other episodes that like God was kind of like giving me these visions, if you want to say, or visuals, but it was like, it was the same thing, same visual, like, I mean, repeated. I think I had it 3 times. And then there was like songs that would come up, and then I'd go to service and it'd be like sermons about how God uses then qualified
Yeah.
to do big things. And then I had asked for like one more sign, like.
Now, what was it? Just refresh.
So the one more sign was like, so God was calling me to go back to school.
To be a dentist.
Yeah. So that's
Which is a high
whole
calling.
nother, that's a out of my league calling. Something I did, honestly, I still wrestle with it and I just cling. I mean, I have a passion for it. Don't get me wrong. It's still a very high, intimidating thing. You know what I mean? But like, God called me to do this. And then I finally was like, okay, just give me one more sign for me to know it's you. You know what I mean? And to accept it. And then he used our oldest son, who I think at the time was like 3 or 4.
This was when we were in the apartment.
At the apartments, yeah. So he said, hey, Mom, I will, like, I had a dream. This was like the following morning after I prayed. Hey, Mom, I had a dream last night that you went back to school. And like, he doesn't know. Like, he was asleep. I was having this like nighttime prayer before I went to bed, you know, just me and God time. And so at that point, I just accepted, like, okay, this is something God wants from me. But then but then there's still a lot of questions like, how?
And you
like,
don't really have,
when?
Yeah.
Because I had all these excuses, like a list of like, let me tell you why I can't do the thing you say I can. Anyway, so like, I think it was maybe a year or 2 after all this stuff when he made it real, like, this is me and this is what I'm calling you to do. But it wasn't necessarily like, I need you to do this now. It's like, this is what I want you to do. Okay. So now I accepted it. And now I'm like, okay, God, like, if you want this to happen, like, you're going to have to basically take care of all these things. And they weren't even like excuses. Like on my end, they're like logical things. For example, like, I'm the main breadwinner right now. I can't afford school right now. My boss, like, they've never had a part-timer. Like, he won't let me go part-time. You know what I mean? So,
and that's just what you were saying in your head.
Like, they're
that's not
just
necessarily true.
Yeah, like things. I mean, logistic stuff. Like, these are things that you need to take care of for me to do that. So I think a year or 2 goes on, and then COVID's going on, and then there was like an incentive pay for people who showed up to work. So we got our paycheck plus the incentive, and it was a big, nice incentive pay. And so this money, like, actually added up to being how much I needed to pay for my school. And so there was that.
You said did you say you had another vision, right?
No, I don't think so. No, okay. But I was having, this is what was happening. While I was still working, there was a couple times where, like, I would step into the room to, you know, like, you bring your patient back, get them hooked up, getting ready for surgery. And there's 2 instances where, like, the patients would just speak life over me. Like, they don't know me. This is the first time they met me. And they would just randomly, this one lady randomly goes, "You're going to be a dentist, aren't you?" And I'm like, we'll see.
Well,
I'm like, well, no, just kidding. It's like, well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Like, that's my goal. But just like, how do how do you know that? Why would you say that? And I'm like, why do you ask? And then she'd be like, I can just see it. And it's like, just things like that. Like, and I think this is where God was just once again, like, I think this was him hinting, like, it's almost time. Like, and like bringing it back. Cause COVID's going on. You're a mom. Like, it's been 2 years. Like, not that I forgot, but it was probably like buried.
Oh, yeah.
Back in my mind.
And all the other things you have to do.
Yeah. And so now he's bringing it back up, like resurfacing it.
Don't forget.
And so, and I think it was kind of like also like, get ready. It's almost time to go. Cause that was another thing. It's like, when do you want me to, you know? And so one of the things was the pay, or to pay for school, and the incentive pay just miraculously like added up to what I needed. And then one thing was, she was like, well, I don't know if my boss is going to let me go part-time, because I don't think we could afford for me to quit entirely. And I talked with him, and I shared everything like that was going on, like how I just felt God calling me, and he was like all for it. Like, he was like, yeah, you know, I'm going to honor this because you're pursuing the field, and like, I think it's like good. And he gave me his blessing, which is really rare. And I had like a lot of coworkers like, good luck. Like we don't have part-time, and it's like, you do now.
God said.
Anyway, so there's that. And then, okay, so now he's like, basically he's marking off all these things, and I'm getting the hint of like, shoot, like it's time. Like he wants me to actually obey. Like he told me what he wanted me to do. Now he wants me to act on it. And it's like so much harder.
The obedience.
It's so much
part,
harder.
yeah.
Like when he told me his big idea for me, it was terrifying, but like I still was not acting on it. So I was like, okay, I'll just
Pretend like
maybe
I
he'll
didn't hear
forget.
you.
No.
Maybe he'll
No,
forget.
it's like, shoot, he's like having me actually do this. So, and I think the hardest thing to trust him with this was like, I was a main breadwinner. So it's like, how do I step away from this? Like, how is our family going to do this? How am I going to tell you? Like, how, you know what I mean? And of all things too, it's like, this is so God, his character. Like, why now? Why during COVID? It's like the worst time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's so him. Like, when the world is doing one thing, like,
Upside down.
execute, and it's like, so if it's like, dude, we're like in this dark time, and he's like, go do my will out there. Okay. So anyways, but I feel like someone told me this, whenever there's a storm, like God calls us to like we're
Go
supposed
into
to
it.
run into it, not like, but we want to run away and hide, but he's like, no, run into it.
Yeah.
And you see him move in big ways. But so he had me start doing that. And here's the big thing is, after I like accepted and was like, okay, and I'm jumping, I think I had like told you my idea, and I think I've told you crazier idea. So you I don't know if you were like, you believed me yet. I think you're like, okay, like sure.
Yeah.
You're still kind of supportive, but I don't think
like,
it clicked
okay,
yet.
honey.
I don't think it clicked yet, and we'll get there when it clicks. But so I told you, and when I told you, I said I had to sit you down and be like, okay, listen, I'm gonna tell you something crazy, but like don't say anything until I'm done, and then I'll hear you out. But like let me get this out. And I shared with you everything, like how God started from like 2 years ago, and like how he's calling me now. And I was like, this isn't another crazy Karina idea, because there's plenty of those, but like, let me show you how this is a God thing. And I think you still thought it was a crazy Karina idea. But you're kind of like, okay, sure. And you're being supportive. And so my next step was to go and like register, like to go.
Yeah.
And I remember we were trying to do the cheapest route, like community college, because we just paid off my student loan debt. So like go cheapest route until I like have to pay and stuff. But we went to go talk to the community college, and I remember just being so nervous. So I had already like Googled the statistics of someone like me to be able to do this, and they were bad. Like the results were like close to like not possible. And if it's possible, you're going to go through hell to do it. So
sounds like something God would do.
So and like, so I said, it's like, yeah, I'm aware of statistics. I'm aware of who I am, where I come from. So like, I get it. This is a big thing. But I go to this meeting with my advisor, who's going to be my advisor, with this like intention of like building a relationship with them. So they walk really close with me and help me out. Because I'm like, I'm going to need your help. It's been so long. Okay, so I go to this community college, and like, he basically is like, okay, so like, what do you want to do? What do you want to go to school for? Because we're talking about classes, and I share with him what I wanted to do. And he like started laughing at me. And
like a belly chuckle?
Yeah, like
or
kind of like,
giggle?
yeah, right. Like really kind of like that.
Smart aleck.
And I was like, and then he goes, you have, and he like throws all statistics in my face, like my fears, the fears that I was wrestling with between me and God. I felt like the enemy just manifested them and like had this guy just throw them in my face in a physical, human way. And he's like kind of laughing at me, and he's like, well, you're Latina, so your chances are like 3% of actually doing it. And like, do you come from money? Does mom and dad have money? And I was like, no, I don't have a mom and dad. And he just like, yeah, your chances are less. Are you married? And then he kind of laughs. Yeah. Do you have kids?
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, I would. He's like laughing. And he's like, honestly, I would just try something more realistic, like nursing. And even nursing is like pretty hard, but like that's more realistic. Like that's like a high achievement. And I'm like, I don't want to be a nurse. I'm like, I'm the kind of person, Ryan, like it takes a lot for me to see you as a bad person. Like, I feel like I honestly don't know if I've ever encountered a racist because it goes over my head. Like it takes a lot for me to think you're a bad person.
You believe the best in people.
Yeah. And so this guy like made me feel uncomfortable, obviously, after the first, second time he laughed at me. But now I'm like super uncomfortable. Now it's like super obvious. Like, dude, like you suck at your job. Like you're so rude. And like, and I don't feel like I like using the word racist because to me, racist is just like a very like, overused I look word. And I feel like part of me wanted to give into that mentality. Like, oh, this racist, like young, white, cocky guy. And I'm so thankful, but the Holy Spirit was like, no, that's sin. That's not racism. That's sin.
Yep.
Because at the end of all of that, like racism is pride.
Yep.
It's like you think you're better because of this or that. It's arrogance and pride. And so God was like, that's not racist. That's sin. And it shouldn't be new to us. Yeah. It's just a different form.
Wow.
And so, and I'm so thankful because I think back then too, it was like those movements of going on. And so, and I could have fallen into that victim mentality, like, oh, poor me, I'm a minority. And I don't care. Like, I don't have to fall into that, you know? Yeah. And so I remember I said, you know what? I didn't just wake up this morning and said, hey, I think I'm going to be a dentist one day. I was like, I'm aware of statistics. I'm aware of how hard it is, but I know what the Lord told me I was going to do. So I thanked him for his time, and I told him, like, this is clearly not the school for me. And I left, and I was, like, discouraged. I was crying, and I just said, God, I tried. If you want this to happen, you're going to have to take over.
We've got plenty more of the story to come, so make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you're never left out on what's to come.